Not know where my glasses of Moparing are. What's happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic whatever day you're watching this. So here's the deal. The Demon 170 is upon us, and apparently these things are going to start hitting dealers sometime around September or October, just in time for boost weather, which is fantastic. But it's kind of got me to thinking a little bit. Is anybody excited about this thing still? I mean, listen, it's all the heavy petting is kind of over, right? And because of that, well, we know what to expect. We know what's going to be coming down the line, but is anybody really interested in this? Like, what's going to really turn you on about the car? I've been talking a lot about this thing and breaking down all the numbers and, talking about the car just in general, right? But I haven't really thought about it in terms of how this car is going to impact the Mopar community in general. I mean, yeah, it's pretty cool that they're releasing a car like this, a car with all of the upgrades. Everything that they figured out that the original Demon was breaking or blowing up or what have you. Everything that the original Demon was failing at, they addressed with this car. And strangely enough, they answered the question that so many of us were really out there looking to get an answer for, and that was, why didn't this thing flex fuel? I mean, it was one of those things like, it's, come on guys, get with it. You've got flex fuel technology in other vehicles. You need to figure out how GM beat you to the punch with this and come up with your own version of a sensed E85 system so that you can actually have a true flex fuel and run the car on the fuel that everybody is converting their Demons to. You got to remember, there's a lot of Demon guys that were going for numbers that just said, look, this race gas thing ain't going to cut it. And they converted to E85, and for good reason. So at least they got that figured out. More robust rear differential, cradle lockout, and everything else. I guess that matters. But the problem with all of that is that you've got far too many guys that have been running deeper than what this car is going to run realistically, by the way, with a lot of stock parts. Basically, it's a foot brake and a green light away from, well, low tens at least with the original Demon. And in really good air, yeah, you could get the thing into the nines. I mean, a 980, 990 car for most guys in most low DA conditions. But remember when everybody was trying to go after that 965, that Leah Pritchett, whatever she's going on. It's interesting. Sovereign Racer X was saying the same thing. Man, I've been saying that for a long time, dude. As a matter of fact, I was saying that 890 is almost a number that'll catch you a class action lawsuit. Oh, kind of like what the original Demon had coming its way with the 965. So again, it leads me to wonder, did they underplay their hand this time? See, the reason why I'm asking this is when the original Demon hit the scene, hit the rollers, if you will, hit the rolling road, the dyno. When we first started putting Demons on the dyno, what we were surprised by was how low the number was. And it was low. Not only was it low from a expectation point of view, but it was low. It was low when you compared it to a stock Hellcat. I'm not even talking about what would end up being the Red Eye, because the Red Eye didn't exist at that point. But in a world where stock Hellcats were putting down, in a healthy stock Hellcat would put down somewhere in the neighborhood of like 590 to the rear wheels, 595. You realize that Demons, when they were rated at 840, we had some that were 565, 575 to the rear wheels. And it had us all going, that's not a good number. And in fact, the one that I'm thinking about off the top of my head kind of threw us for a loop, because we were even thinking, my God, is something rubbing? Is the e-brake dragging? Is something else going on? What is the deal? We were all expecting, somewhere in the 110 horsepower over range. And we never really got it. Matter of fact, we were running the thing on 104 octane, trying to figure out what the deal was, just playing around with tuning it early on. I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is, when the first Demons hit the track, a lot of them, even on the 100 octane tune, were struggling to run 10 teens. And this is something that is kind of interesting when you think about it, because not only were they struggling to run 10 teens, but the guys that were running the car just on 93 octane, early on, those guys were having a really hard time getting those cars out of the 1020s. Matter of fact, a host of Demons on 93 octane were having a hard time running any quicker than 1025 early on in all of that. Now, granted, yeah, guys got a little bit quicker, but that's not the point. These cars were listed at a 965. Now, granted, even though that was on 100 octane fuel, when you factor in the fact that nobody was running the numbers, period, much less getting anywhere really, from drag racers' point of views, close to those numbers, leads me to kind of hope that the 170 is actually going to be an underrated scenario. We'll just have to see. But I can tell you this, from my experience with 1,000 horsepower cars, they're realistically, and again, take this with a grain of salt, because this is only my own personal experience, but most of those cars had run, at best, and this is with somewhat significant race prep, which is to say weight reduction, 920s. So 890 anything, yeah, you get to thinking about that. Man, well, it's got a 3-liter supercharger. Downstream temperatures could potentially be less. So you've got a scenario where you have downstream temperatures because of a 3-liter supercharger being possibly less. Maybe that's where you're going to get some of the extra power from. Maybe you can get a bit more consistency out of this thing. But I am dying to see one of these things run into the 8s. Actually, here's something better. I would be happy seeing one in the wild, okay? And I'm not talking about somebody that's trying to get in there and act stupid and do all the little tricks and whatever. Get in there and actually run the thing in a real life, genuine, as delivered type of a configuration, the way that Ray and I ran the F8 Demon at the original Legion of Demons, running a 978, which everybody chased then for the next year. But when we ran the 978, that was as delivered. That was on NTO5 Nittos. That was with the factory, the factory drag pack, skinnies, but in a 1-seat configuration. Basically, I just pulled the seat out of the car, and it was a rear seat delete car from the factory. So it was still within the spirit of that competition. And nobody else could touch that number realistically, not in as delivered form. So I will say this, I'll be happy to see one of those cars run a 9.0. I would love to get my hands on one and run it down the track. The problem is, who's going to hand over the keys on a low DA day on a car that is realistically going to cost potentially anywhere from 150 to $200,000. And by the way, guys, yes, I did try to see if I could get my hands on one. And quite honestly, I would have been a player if I could have found one at Sticker. The problem with that, though, is that to get one at Sticker, I would have had to get rid of my Hellcat. And Revlon, especially with the new rims, I haven't posted up a picture of them yet, but Revlon in street trim with the new rims. I just drove the car today. Smooth, absolutely crazy happy car. I freaking fell in love with that car all over again. And I got to tell you, I wouldn't be cool getting rid of my car to get this Demon 170. I mean, it would be a very, very rare case of temporary insanity if I could get my hands on the new Demon. Only because I know I wouldn't be a buy and hold guy. I would be a buy and content and drag strip and whatever and then get rid of it. But here's the thing. I broke all of the math down on this thing. And I would have to clear, I'll put it to you like this. And this is actually kind of a funny thing. I would have to buy it for 105 grand, I think is how the car was that I was speccing out. I'd have to be able to buy it for Sticker at $105,000. I would have to sell it for like $210,000. And then after capital gains tax and after insurance and all the carrying costs that come with that car, not to mention replacing a car after I sold it to get back the car that I had to give up, I would end up really not netting a ton of money after the transaction. You figure you would have to pay taxes on the balance on $65,000, assuming I got it at Sticker. So I'd have tax there on the purchase, not including a trade-in, or if I sold my car outright, I would have to pay full boat taxes on every dime that I spent on that car. So $100,000, that's about $105,000. That's about $7,000 in taxes. Not to mention the back end, when I sold it, you would have to cover capital gains on the purchase price minus what you sold it for, which you'd have to get 100 grand over. So you're going to be paying capital gains tax on that money, plus, again, insurance, all the carrying costs and everything else, plus the repurchase of the car that I would have to get rid of. Anyway, I would have to keep the car for about 1.5 to 2 years. And once I amortized everything, guys, even if I sold it for 100 grand more and I bought a car afterwards, I wouldn't really make any money on it. And that's the weird thing. Like, I would literally have been better off in that year's worth of time just picking up a part-time nighttime stocking job and just putting that money in the bank. I know it doesn't make any sense, and I'm basing that off of the repurchase of a car that I would have to give up to get this thing. But it's weird. It's kind of true. And so, you know, when you balance everything out over the course of about 2 years, that's what you end up with. Now, the content could be fun, but the other issue is that I would be ferrying that car either to Dallas or to dang near Beaumont to run the thing, because my drag strip is shutting down, which is one of the reasons why Chandelier, aka Revlon, why she is back in street trim with her new shoes. And I got to tell you guys, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the retirement, if you will, of that car from racing. And that car is more documented than any other Hellcat that I am personally aware of in terms of how many times that car has been to the track, how much data I have logged with that car. I'll even take that a step further. I would be surprised if there is a documented Hellcat out there that has had more time at wide open throttle than my car has. I'm sure there are a few, but I would love to shake the hands of the folks that are involved in those cars, because I'm telling you, between street hits, data logging, drag strip hits, just a few times to the dyno. I think really it's only been to the dyno once or twice. But with every data log hit and every part that I've tested and everything else that I've done with that car, I mean, yeah, you would have to own a shop and have a dedicated stock boost car to get anywhere near the amount of data that I've collected on that car. And again, it has, when I bought it, it had right at 5,000 miles on it. It's basically somebody's garage ornament. I've put just shy of 20,000 miles on that car. And I was thinking about it. All of the miles that are on that car, except for a few road trips and maybe a few trips out to dinner here and there, have been going either to the drag strip, going down the drag strip, coming back the return lane, or going back home from the drag strip. Think about that for a minute. That's how much time I have put into that particular car. It's time for her to chill. And again, I'm going to post up a video after this tonight that's going to show the new wheels that I put on the car. Really stoked with the look, a little bit understated, but and I'll tell you right now, it's I put the new Flowform factory replica FR66s on the car. So it's sick to death. Guys, the new FRs are the the Flowform wheels. They're light. They're incredibly well balanced. That car at a steady cruise at, say, significant speeds, don't want to get in trouble. Anyway, butter smooth and actually better than the older non-Flowform wheels. So yeah, they're really slick. And I mean, and I held a significant speed for a while with that car, and it was like glass. But anyway, it looks great. They're the anniversary wheels. They're anniversary replicas for a narrow body. And man, this is the wheel that I really wish the car would have come with. It's got a little bit more of a dish. You guys will see that in the video when I post it. Oh, screw that. Let's go take a look at it. I'm digging on this thing. Here, let's go take a look at it. Hang on. All right, so can I flip this thing? Anyway, there's the car right there. I don't know if y'all can see it all that great. Can y'all see that? It's kind of hard to see the, there you go. God, it's just a terrible shot. Anyway, I'll give you a shot of the front, and then y'all can see the video when I post it up. This lighting in here, it doesn't do it any justice at all. I'm running into stuff. Anyway, I don't even know. What are y'all seeing? Can y'all see? What am I? There we go. There we go. All right. So yeah, if you can see, God, where's the camera over here? There you go. Anyway, it's pretty slick. They do not stick out at all. Those are those Falcon Azenas in the rear. So anyway, that'll give you guys an idea, but that's kind of a terrible kind of look back there. You'll see the video when I post it, and those wheels look really good on these cars. And I've got some shots earlier today of that car that were just absolutely out of this world. So really happy. Whoever put that wheel together, the stagger, the offset, and everything is really good. They're not that expensive. I mean, they're expensive. Not that your car needs them, but about $330 for the rears, $315 or something like that for the fronts. They're not that expensive, but guys, they're light. These Flowforms are, I want to say, like 4 or 5 pounds a wheel lighter than the regular cast wheel. They're strong, again, extremely well balanced. And I gotta say, the look of the thing, what I just got through showing you guys, it was almost a bad idea. It just doesn't do it any justice. The wheel, what somebody finally did, and my buddy Chris is the one that turned me on. So Orange Crush gets all the credit for this. I didn't go snoop this out. He had spotted these and said, hey, I know you're looking for this particular look. This is the look you need to get. He sent them over to me. And I said, man, let's just go ahead and do this. And so we've been doing some horse trading and was able to get these wheels coming down the pipe. And I'll tell you this, The thing that I like about them is that the spokes themselves do not go all the way to the end, the edge of the wheel. These things, they're 20 inch, they're 20 by 9.5, 20 by 10.5s in the rear. But whoever put these wheels together did it right. They sucked them in a little bit, which really looks good. You don't get that, like, it doesn't have that kicked out look anymore. They're sucked in just by a little bit. Like, it's, if you weren't looking for it, you probably wouldn't see it, but they're sucked in. It seems like they're sucked in about 1/8 of an inch more, which, if you're picky, is a lot. But again, just the look of them, the fact that the spokes don't go all the way to the edge, and that curve to them. Anyway, it makes the wheel actually look smaller than 20. It looks like it's got like a set of 18s on it in a way. You'll see that whenever I post up the video later. It's just the look of the car is so much better. So anyway, I may even fire up Instagram again and post up a couple of those pictures because it was really good. Really good looking wheel. Real happy with it. And I mean, I just can't say enough good things about it. So if you're into something that's a little bit more subtle, something that's a little bit more factory looking, but something that's not exactly, how do you say, just something that's a little bit different, but still kind of factory looking. These wheels are really the ones that you want. Again, they're light. What's funny is that compared to the cast wheels, you can feel that they're light, like just picking the thing up. It's not like you need a scale to figure this out. I mean, they're lighter. They're lighter by a significant amount. So go with that. And again, you know, they balanced out really well. The Falcon Azenas FK510s, guys, you know, they're not paying me to say this, and I don't ever do, I haven't done any product testing that I wasn't paid, or that I was paid to do. Is all that I was not paid to do ever. Falcons are awesome. And now that the temperatures come up a little bit, man, they grab so well. So, and they fit that wheel beautifully. That 295/40 that I'm running in the back is absolutely perfect with the way that it fits that wheel. So, yeah, definitely worth taking a look at. And yes, I am running the 275/40s up front, 295/40s out back. That 295/40 fills that wheel well up a little bit better in the rear. And it's just because it's a 300 wear tire, it just hooks so well. Even with my car, I mean, granted, it's hot. It was 85 degrees today, summertime conditions and all that. But I mean, it'll still haze the tires at will, don't get me wrong, but it's just such a well sorted tire, and they're inexpensive too. So that's another thing. I was able to get, you know, a set of wheels and tires for this thing for about, grand total might have been $2,300 once it's all said and done. And let me think about that. 13, actually 20, if you want to count the cost of the Aturos, about 2,100, 2,200, somewhere in that range. Even though I've had those Aturos for a long time, I'm just kind of reusing the tires that I had, and they're doing great. Anyway, let me check in with you guys. I just went over here blabbering my mouth. Let's see. Itch is in. What's up, brother? Saying good day. Sovereign is in. Ryan saying, what's up, Professor? I'm more interested in the Hemi Orange Scat Pack manual with low boost Whipple. That is a lot of fun to drive, by the way. Sovereign saying, what's up? Ardell is in. What's up, man? Sovereign saying, Racer X was saying the same thing about the 170, the 890 was going to be hard. Guys, man, I'm not trying to say the car won't run the number. Believe me, it probably can, but it's not going to run it for anybody that's in Vegas. I can tell you that. And speaking of which, they did post a number on the board in Vegas. But they posted the 891 at 151.17 miles an hour. And why is it that I can just rattle that off the top of my head? Well, that's the number that was on the letter that NHRA had certified the car had run, which got him into hot water per the NHRA guidelines, I guess, of having a parachute. Who knows what they're complaining about? Cages, parachutes, whatever, doesn't matter. So, it's okay. I guess somebody ran that number with that car. But again, we're never told what the conditions were. Was it negative 3,000 DA? I want to say they might have been running the cars at no problem, which is in New Orleans or at least Louisiana. And if that was the case, that track can get some sick, crazy DAs. But, I don't know where they ran the number. I don't know what the DA was. We don't get that kind of information. And unfortunately, in the game that they're playing, that is as important. That information is as important, really, if not more important, than the number that the car ran. For a real drag racer that's looking at that, you can say that's great, but if it ran that number in negative 3,000 DA, then we've got a problem. And when I found out that that the boards were showing 891 in Vegas, I looked up the density altitude in Las Vegas for that night, and it was 28 or 2,900 feet. Which is to say that car, instead of running if it did actually run an 891, that would actually be an 860 car, and or at least an 870 car, based on a density altitude, kind of quick, sideline math, about a tenth for every 1,000 feet for those cars. So if humidity is the same, by the way. So anyway, I was like, no. It just didn't pass the sniff test, guys. It just absolutely didn't. That's why when I started putting my feelers out and started getting my input back, or at least the input from them back to me, that's when the car started making a bit more sense. And, that 1,025, 1,050 horsepower we were all talking about started to look a lot more realistic. Sovereign say they didn't show us the board after the pass. True. They didn't show it on the video. No, they did not. They did show it, but they didn't show it to the public. Sovereign saying, welcome to Professor B's live stream. What's happening? Robot saying, way cool car, but very one-dimensional. That's okay, but hopefully majority land in the purist hands. I mean, listen, you've got to be a well-heeled purist to get your hands on one. I would love to get my hands on one, guys. I really would. I would love to get one down the track. Here's the funny thing. Okay, so you've got Ray, who set the real Demon record, in my opinion, which is 978. That's an as-delivered car. You've got myself, Jim, Orange Crush, Jim Mopar, by the way, is who I'm talking about up in Canada. But you've got Jim, who's a national record holder. You've got me, that's a national record holder. You've got a host of guys on the Demon side of life that were keeping their cars as delivered for them, that were, up there, running numbers. You've got guys with super stocks that are out there running national records. So you've got Jerome, Ron, me. You've got a Jim. You got any host of us that have actually run honest to God numbers in stock or stock-ish parts bin type cars. Those are the guys. We're the ones you need to have one of these cars. We're the ones that can campaign it and actually get a real number out of these. Without Z would be another great person to have. And obviously Behemoth would be at the very top of that list. These are guys that have got the chops on the drag strip that can actually run a number with a car, that have experience with cars in this kind of a power range, and can give real honest to goodness feedback, not just journo type feedback. It's so frustrating. The whole journo feedback thing is embarrassing to listen to, if I'm being honest. I mean, it would be like if I was trying to explain something that somebody else is an expert in, like carpentry or masonry or something that I know what the words kind of mean, but I'm not an expert, or I'm not even a skilled anything at it. I just, you know what I mean? So if you're in a trade and you know what really works, and somebody starts talking about your trade and they're getting things kind of, it's like they're really not right, like it's right but it's not right. That's what you get from a lot of these journalists, and even then it's not very good. It's just, it's like they're reading off of a cue card. It's like a copy of a copy of a copy. That's the info that you're getting, and it's just, it's cringy, it's embarrassing. So to put that car in the hands of folks that do this kind of stuff on the regular, that's the important thing. That's the important people to have behind the wheel of one of those cars. If it's not me, somebody that does the same type of me. Get Jim to run it up in Canada where he's got sick to death air. That guy is murdering numbers up there with the conditions that he's got and with the combination that he's running with. You've got Behemoth, which has run stupid sick numbers. Z, who's run stupid sick numbers. And of course, Jerome and Ron on the super stock and demon side. It's so hard to not see these guys with one of those cars. And so anyway, just kind of my O2 on that. I would prefer if, okay, and let me also just say this. If you've got the ability to take the thing to the drag strip every weekend like I used to have, lots of opportunity for data logging, lots of opportunity for data acquisition. Some of these guys have got the ability to do that. You need to turn them loose with one of these cars. Oh, Sovereign's hanging out with Rowboat and Ardell. Kurt saying they should have let Mason test one. I wish they would, man. I would be all over that. Arfos, what's up, man? Captain Booze, how's it going tonight, Bri? Getting ready to get the old 6.1 out of storage. Nice. 5.7 mag also hitting the road too. As far as the 170, I am still in awe. They pulled it off, but I agree. Let's see it out. And that's the thing. It's so cool. Golly, God. See, this is the other thing. Ugh. Okay, look. With the Demon, it's like you don't have to overplay your hand. And that's what I felt like they did with the Demon. Okay, 965, give it a 985 number. A 985 doesn't look any different than a 965. I mean, it's a 980. That is a crazy number. Not a 965. That's why with this one, they're going 890. I mean, if they would have said 920 or a 19 or a, 925, went from let's say if they would have done the 85, we got, from 985 to 925. It's huge. This is what it looks like. And they could have shown how many, demon links a 925 is from a 985. This is why it's so hard for me to watch this kind of stuff, because I know better. And the guys that I run with and the guys that I talk to and the people that I race with and race against every weekend, we talk, we're all friends. And it's like, are you going to get one? It's like, man, I'm trying, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to get one. What about you? And I'm going, maybe. I don't know if I can really pull it off. And I'd have to get rid of Chandelier, aka Revlon. I'd have to get rid of Revlon, and I don't know if I can really honestly do that. And of course, with drag strips shutting down all over the place, that's going to make the proposition of getting your hands on one of these cars a little bit less appetizing. I mean, when you have major markets losing drag strips, which is the only place that Demon 170 will run its number. I mean, unless you VHT some side lot somewhere and you've got a quarter mile to hit and a half mile to shut down, that car will not run these numbers on the street. Believe that. So it's only going to happen at a drag strip, and with quarter mile drag strips shutting down at obnoxiously fast paces, it kind of removes the venue for the car in general, right? I mean, wouldn't you agree? So, I mean, unless you're just trying to really garner points at your local cars and coffee, I mean, dude, think about it for a minute. I mean, it gives you something to talk about at least. And for the hot rodders out there, the guys that don't go to the track but just want a fast hot rod, they're not going to be going after something like this. They're too busy going fast with other things to worry about $100,000 or a $200,000 car to be bothered by it, right? So why are we even why would we even start getting excited about this? Not to mention the guys that want to run eights or low nines or whatever you want to draw this thing out as. Okay. Here, okay, let me go ahead and address the white elephant in the room. Here's the problem, and the reason why I say white elephant, it's kind of a play, right? So if you know what the white elephant thing is, you'll get it. But I gotta tickle that Hemi thing too. The thing is it's the care and feeding of something rare, something sacred, right? That's where the white elephant phrase comes from. It's the old trick where, I've come to pay homage to, the king or whatever. Here's a white elephant, the biggest, most expensive thing. Plus you can't kill it and you got to feed it. It's going to cost you a fortune to keep this thing on the payroll. Well, that's what this car is. It's a white elephant. And more to the point, you can't really do anything with it aside from, again, just kind of showing up here and there at a Cars and Coffee. But because of the cost of it, because the fact it won't run, you can't really play with it on the street, won't run the numbers on the street, obviously, for, legal reasons. You kind of wonder, okay, well, what was the purpose of this exercise? If the technology can waterfall, and the regular guys can get the flex fuel technology in their cars. Let's say you've got a 6.4 and you want to have a flex fuel thing because it might be kind of cool. Maybe that will work for you. 5.7 guys, same thing. Hellcat guys, Red Eye, whatever, it doesn't matter. They need to have the ability to have that same opportunity and just take advantage of the technology. And I don't know, we'll see. Maybe we'll be able to get that, maybe we won't. But that's really the benefit and the upside to this car for me. But again, with my track being shut down, which is still weird to talk about, and with so many other tracks shutting down, I started thinking about it, am I really going to be a player? And this is, we're talking about a person like me. There's a lot of people like me out there, a whole lot, that would probably have been very interested in this car if their tracks were going to stick around, or if there wasn't a question whether or not they were going to have a track in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Ryan saying I slightly wanted that copter to drop the car just because. So I don't know if you guys were watching that. The type of helicopter that they were flying was kind of suspect. I mean, that was really more for the looks than anything else to have that twin rotor. Forget the name of that thing, something X. Crap. It's been a while. I haven't kept up with helo stuff in a while. Anyway, I can tell you from my brief experience with helicopters that if there was a shot of the helicopter where, I don't know if it got hit with a gust of wind, but it went tail down and crept back. In other words, the guy flying the thing didn't, if I'm flying it, he didn't take the collective and pull back on it. That was him getting hit with either a load shift, some type of a load shift. In other words, and it wasn't necessarily the car, I don't know if he got hit with wind or something. And what that can create is an oscillation. The way that the helicopter, when you're starting to learn how to fly, the way you're taught is you have to think like you are tethered, like this. Okay, you're everything that you do is kind of like, it's like you're tethered underneath your rotor. And so when that thing rocks back, that whoever was flying it was really good. He he did not touch anything. Um, he didn't do anything other than keep the thing right where it was. Um, I don't know. I was way more impressed with the helicopter pilot than I was with anything else. I was putting it to you that way. Which is funny. I can fly a helicopter. I just literally cannot, with an R-22 anyway, I can't make it hover. I can't make it do the one thing. Well, let me say I can, but it's a hover, like it's a loosely defined hover. So we're saying, welcome everyone. Hit that like, subscribe for sure, guys. Oh, this is, I guess, the part where I was out there, the field trip. Yeah, out in the shop. Yeah, I love the new wheels a lot. Came in late, so those are factory reproduction. I believe it's FR66FF is the wheel. The new flow form wheels that they have. They're lighter than the cast, stronger than the cast. They balanced out really well. The tires in the front are, of course, the Atturo AZ850s that just will not die and just keep performing extremely well. But AZ850, 275, 40s up front. And then the rear is the Falcon Azenis FK510 SUVs in 295 40s. And that is my all-time favorite look. And as far as performance goes, even with my car, which in this air will still run a 1050 with no problem whatsoever. In fact, I've done it. It was kind of the funny thing is just running consecutive low 1050s in the heat. The car does great. The tires hook great. So I'm real happy with them. They hook great, but come on, within reason. Y'all know what I mean. Oh, someone's saying, do it. Put Instagram. Yep. Oh yeah, and Summer's got the Instagram up there. Yeah, I'll probably be posting those up. I'll post up a few of those tonight. Red Dog is in. Summer's saying, Jay Leno will snatch one up. Probably. He's got one of every one of the rest of them. In fact, I want to say he's got one of the early first edition Hellcats. The one that the fender badge is not the Hellcat; it just reads supercharged. That's a rare super early release. Mine is an early release, but it's not super early like that. I think that his build date would have been, let's see, August. August is when the first August or so. I think it was September is when the first commercially available. Was it? Yeah, I think it was August was the first commercially available. And then there was a break. And then late September into October. And then in November were the two early release cars. And that's when mine was at the tail end of that in November. SRTZ saying, howdy B. Watched Knockout 360's upload. And after the 170 was loaded on a truck that night, it was stolen. Was it really stolen? I thought it was going to actually be a little bit. I thought that was fake. Oh, Sovereign saying Demonology is going to try to get one. Oh, I bet he does. Oh, HU's saying, yeah, the only thing about the Demon 170 is that most of them will be bought by collectors, which is 100% true. The only place you'll see those cars is at a Mecum auto auction. Dampens my enthusiasm for the car. There's a lot of folks that would agree with that. And, what stinks is that, there are enthusiasts out there that want to give this car a go, but there are so many others that have the money to throw at one of these things and will have no problem buying one, putting it into a storage unit somewhere, wrapping it up in a bubble or whatever, and they'll just sit on it. And hopefully the car goes up in their mind in value. Here's the thing, though. This is why I was real cautious about picking one up, even if I could sell it for $100,000 over sticker. It's this. You've got to be able to get in that car, do whatever you're going to do with it, and then let it go. You basically got to treat it like a freaking hooker, okay? It's the triple F method, and then you're out. The reason for that is what happens when the car isn't the quickest production car anymore? What happens if Dodge comes out with something that's quicker? Keep in mind, Demon prices dropped $15,000 overnight when that car was released. Remember all those guys that were buying these things up at $130,000? Well, talking about the Demons, now those cars are struggling to capture $115,000. $115,000 is now sounding like way too much money for a Demon. And in fact, you may see the price drop even further the closer you get to the release date of the new 170. Imagine being the guy that spent massive dollars on a Demon only to have this thing come and suck all of that money right out of your pocket. Like, I ain't saying it's funny. I mean, I'm not. It's not at all hysterical. Like, side-splitting funny. Like Hall of Fame comedy. Like, so funny that, I mean, you almost can't laugh. Like, it'll hit you later kind of funny. I'm not saying it's that. When, you know, I was looking at picking up a Demon at one point, and oh, the price just kept going up and up. Dodge will never release anything like this again. This is the last of its kind. This is the blah, blah, blah of the yakety, whatever, blah, blah. Demon 170 shows up. Oh, shoot. Here we go. So I guess the point that I'm making is, what happens if the next powered by electricity very fast thing shows up? Or just, you know, insert whatever scenario that you want. And it doesn't have to be a Dodge either. You know, what happens if Ford just gets pissed off one day and decides to start throwing their weight around in this? Yeah, again, it's your best is only best until better shows up to the party. Remember that? Well, fastest is only fastest until faster shows up to the party. And that's the problem that you run into with these kind of cars. I mean, they've got a neat place in history. And you're not going to stay the fastest forever. Look at a Hemi Cuda from 1970 or 71. Obnoxiously fast for its day, right? But even on a slick tire, it is, by today's standards, not fast. I mean, it's quick for an NA car, but you wouldn't go, oh, wow, that thing really redefined the... It's not going to redefine anything for you. Believe me, I've been there. And so, if you've got one of these cars, that's why I keep saying, if you've got one, you've got to be first to the punch. You've got to get your business done, shag and brag and split. That's how you got to do this. So anyway, and that's what a lot of guys are going to do. Trust me on that. Let's see. SRT's hanging out with Sovereign. Let's see. Red Dog said Demon 170 is a Jay Leno car. Yeah, you got to have Jay Leno paper to buy one. Sovereign said, yeah, the Herman's got the black ghost on the side for sure. That's one of my cams on that car, by the way. Sovereign, yeah, he's probably going to try to pick up the Ghost, I would think, but he's not going to shell out the kind of money that they're going to try to get for that car, I don't think. Hitch is saying it'd look good in his collection. It would. I mean, he's got an awesome Dodge section in his collection. I mean, it would be cool if Jay got it, because he would preserve it. And it wouldn't be that, you know, that it would go to a true car guy that appreciates the history and the why more than the result, and that's really to me the most important part of that conversation. So for him getting it. Oh, Sovereign saying there is the drag pack, but it's not street legal. No, it is not. Superstock saying just another car for the rich and famous. Yep, I've seen minimum 100K overstock to even be considered, which sucks. Cal saying, except for Shaq Diesel, the rich and famous generally don't buy Challengers. That is true. Unless it's got a demon nameplate on it. Oh, Hemi is saying his local Dodge dealer is allocated 4 of them. I have bought a couple of cars from this dealer and asked if there is any way to get one at MSRP. Nope, not even from the dealer. Yeah. Some are saying heli drop was nuts. Yeah. Some are saying it was a 4,000-pound pendulum on that helicopter. Actually, it would have been, about 4,200 pounds plus the platform. Yeah, that's, you talk about spooky for sure. Oh, Cap said I can't wait to get the 6-1 out to the track. The D8 at Toronto Motorsports Park seems to be pretty good. Oh, I bet. Cal's asking, do I like Maggies or whips better? Man, listen, I've had more. The best vibes for me come from Maggies. Every single time I will pick a Maggie over a whip. Not that I don't like the whip, but I had bad experience with whip 4.5s. You don't need a blower that big. But the Maggies, everybody's done really well with them. The LS crowd, the Hemi crowd, everywhere you put that 2650, it does exceedingly well. It's fed some fairly high horsepower combinations, both street and race. I mean, they're just really good. They're real efficient. So, and they're durable. That's the other thing about the Maggie. I'm like I say, I'm not that there's anything wrong with the Whipples. I just know some folks that have had issues with Whipples, but they're also really good. And I will admit that some of the issues that come from Whipples are when guys try to spin them at like obnoxious RPM. And because they just keep making power, the rotor designs don't cavitate. They're just really good. And they just overspin them. And so, is some of that criticism based in more of like an abuse scenario for that particular supercharger? Probably is. But if I had my choice, I would probably wait on the Whipple 3.8 instead of the 3.0 and go that route. Same basic rotor design, so it's a better rotor design than the older Whipple, like the 4.0, whatever, and the 4.5. The new 3.0 has a different rotor design, very similar to the IHI 3.0 from what I've been told, and just a really good combination in general. Moto saying more power and better time with the new engine properly broken in. I mean, they're quoting times for engines that were very well broken in. So, I mean, it's a possibility, but we'll see. Ryan saying, I would like a Whipple more, I think. It just depends. I mean, Whipple, like I say, there's nothing inherently wrong with Whipple in the design or anything about them, especially the newer ones. Just don't try to overdrive them the way that some folks typically do. Like if you keep one, like in like a street configuration, you'll never have an issue with it. Again, it just depends on what you're trying to do with it. That's the other thing. I mean, any type of supercharger, whether it's a turbo supercharger, centrifugal supercharger, Roots style supercharger, not to be confused with Whipples and IHIs and Maggies that are twin screw. There's actually a difference between those two, even though they're both positive displacement. they all have their place. They all have areas in their efficiency window that they do very well at. Roots are incredibly good. Okay, so the difference between a roots and a twin screw, the real quick sleight of hand way to tell if one is a roots or if it's a twin screw, if it has symmetrical rotors. In other words, both rotors look the same. Okay. In other words, it could be an oval, could be a 3-lobe, whatever. If they are both basically the same shape, or if they're going to be the same shape, that is a roots. A twin screw uses asymmetrical rotor pack. It will have a male and a female side. You could have 4 lobes on the male and 5 on the female. It could be 5 on the male and 6 on the female. You'll have a certain amount of twist, and the twin screw is actually compressing the air within the screws themselves, which makes them more efficient and will make them, you can spin them faster basically and create more power with them that way. Which is good. Only downside to them compared to a roots is that they're typically smaller in size. Roots blowers are typically very large, and they're just air movers. That's all they're doing. And they do a really good job at moving air, like if just in big gulps, but you don't want to spin them very fast because they turn into heat pumps, and that's why the twin screw was developed. So anyway, a little bit of a tangent, kind of took off there for a second. I do that though. Oh, cows, Demon 170, what's the deal with matching VINs for previous owners? What's the point? Yay, my VIN matches my old Demon. It's actually not the vehicle identification number, and that's something that they kept screwing up in the video. And of course, this is where I am, incoherently yelling and at the screen. It's not the VIN, it's the build number. So let's say that you have Demon 52 and you want to have the number 52 Demon 170. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about the build number, not the actual vehicle identification number. But that didn't make any sense, because when you think about it, the Demon guy, I mean, is he going to pay $100,000 over sticker, $150,000 over sticker? What's the number that the Demon guy is going to have to pay over sticker to get that car anyway? It's almost like, hey, we'll do this. Yeah, I'll bet you will if I give you 150 large over your asking price. You better do a hell of a lot more than just that, by the way. I mean, for real, y'all. Come on. Summer said, all the money you spent, you can build your own. Yep. Talking about Leno having that car, the Black Ghost, for sure. SRT's asking, are you thinking or hopefully get engine and parts for Revlon? Or are you happy with the way she is? It's a really good question. Really good question. Here's my thing with Revlon. I am over the moon happy with that car. I don't want to understate how pleased I am any chance I get to drive that car, especially now with the FR66s with the street setup on that car. It is buttery smooth, and it is also well balanced in terms of the amount of power that the car has versus what a really good set of summer style street tires can handle in most driving scenarios, like realistic street driving scenarios. You're going 65, you need to watt that throttle. You're not dealing with a car with a pulley and a whole bunch of extra power where you start getting issues with the car really starting to dance a little bit on the highway, where the car just simply can't hook. And I've dealt with that a whole lot. And it's because, and I understand for some of you guys, this would be real counterintuitive, but it's because of my experience with the very high horsepower cars And I say very, I mean really by standards of today, it's by the high horsepower guys. The competitive cars, we're talking 1,000 horsepower at the flywheel, maybe 1,100 horsepower at the flywheel was about where you would start to really see where this would get annoying. And that number really falls around like the 800 horsepower to like 850 horsepower to the rear wheels on a Mustang dyno, like 880 to 950 on a dyno jet. These cars get annoying. Like all of them do. Mustang, Camaro, Vet, it just picks something. You get to a certain power to weight ratio and really to just an outright power number anyway. It's you can't enjoy the car. Anytime you go starting to tip into the throttle, your first thing that goes to your head is this thing going to stay straight? And at the power level that I'm at, I can actually still drive the car like a car. I mean, it's really kind of nice. And I mean, yeah, it'll get a little sketchy if I watt the throttle at like 45 or 50 miles an hour. It's going to carry, like it's still going to haze the tires really good at highway speeds, if you want to call that a highway speed. At least it'll do it until it shifts, until you're, well, even it'll bark the tires and actually kind of carry a little bit of a haze after the shift, right? So it does that at highway speeds with street tires. That's the most I can ask of that car. And any more than that is a little bit unbalanced, in my opinion. And so as weird as it may sound, because I dealt with and I had load tested so many of those cars, it just was annoying after a while. Like I couldn't get solid data. You can't really get great data when the thing is trying to haze tires at 115, 120 miles an hour. It's actually annoying. So, and that's on drag radials, by the way. Some of these cars were no joke, man. I mean, we're talking cars that were 8-second capable cars that we're trying to make, act like, a typical stock car to drive. There's a lot of development that goes into that and a whole lot of data logging. So, which is why it's so impressive that Dodge was able to do what they were able to do with this 170. Car Wash is saying, would it be waiting to thaw out here in Pennsylvania? My dealer says the allocation goes to the highest bidder. Oh, that sucks. Unfortunately, the purchasers are paying for the appreciation up front, which is 100% true. You pay for all of any of your appreciation up front. The dealership gets the appreciation, not the buyer, which I think is hoer shit. But anyway. Moto X is at, what is the mileage on Revlon? Revlon now has 20,000 miles on it. No, I think it just turned 22,000 miles. So right around 22,000 miles. Ryan's asking, on the 392, when going with a low boost whip, would go with forged piston and rods for expensive insurance on the car, or would not really worry too much about it? Man, I really wouldn't worry too much about it. Those cars are actually a bit more durable than you might think. However, low boost whip, well, you're talking 6-7 pounds of boost. You're going to pick up about 110 horsepower with that, about 110 pound-feet of torque. And you are going to be, the only thing as long as you're not taking it to the drag strip, I think you'll be okay. And it has nothing to do with the engine. It's really more to do with the transmission than anything else. So just know that coming into it. It's what you're building is kind of like Hellcat Light, but the issue is that your transmission is a limiting factor. And so just keep the power, if you're on a Mustang dyno, keep the power at, you're going to baseline at like 400, keep the power around 530 to the rear wheels, and it'll be a lot of fun to drive. I mean, it'll haze the tires at will. And, realistically, you're not going to, if you're not taking it to the drag strip, you're not really doing any real hard dig hits, you should be okay. But again, it's an HP 70 thing, not really an engine thing. And if something does go haywire with the bottom end and it lets go, that's probably going to be a fuel quality issue more than anything else. Probably wouldn't even blame it on the tune. Just, know that coming into it, but keep the boost low, fuel quality high. You'll be in good shape, I think. Red Dog, thank you very much. He's asking, B, is a 2-inch header that much better than a 1 7/8? I opted for the smaller to save a few bucks, plus street only ride. You're not going to miss anything, bro. I mean, you're fine. Don't sweat it. The 1 and 7, the 2-inch. I'll put it to you like this: I wouldn't really even consider 2-inch. Be honest with you, I'd be 1 and 7/8 for. I mean, hell, we did 1 and 7/8 on every one of the builds. They're all Cook's header builds, or Cook's headers were part of the builds. I'm trying to think, bro. We didn't ever use a 2 ever. I never spec'd a build with a 2. I mean, ever. Even with some of the nitrous builds, which I would normally want a bigger header, I was all Cook's 1 and 7/8, which are really good headers, by the way. They got a slightly shorter primary length, which is probably why they perform so well. Let's see. Himmy Head asking, just saw this on the way up. Tire Talk, anybody have experience with a Turo AZ850 drag radial or seen any real world reviews? I don't. Unfortunately, I was not able to get my hands on a set of those tires. And to add to that, if you're thinking about getting a set of those tires, verify the size of the 305/35 if that's the size that you're looking to get. I don't know if it's a misprint. It could have been changed already on their website. I haven't looked in a while. But the reason why I haven't gone back and looked is because the size of the tire was very, very short. And that is not going to work. So I think that there might have been a misprint there. But just check the size of that 305/35 and compare it to the specs on a set of Mickey Thompson ET Street SS's, which is really the tire to get if you can find them. I want to say good things about the Atturo. It's just unfortunate that I haven't had a chance to play with them. But I would love the opportunity if they're the right size. Here's the other thing. Why does nobody make a 295/40/20 drag radial? I mean, since we're on the subject of drag radials, I mean, I get it. You're trying to get away with maybe a little bit less gear, right? If you lower the tire size, you pick up effective gear ratio, which is typically a good thing. But 295/40 looks better, gives you more sidewall, a little bit better footprint opportunity, and dude, it fits the car better. So anyway, been wondering about that for a while now. I really like the 295/40 on the back of these cars. I mean, a lot. So anyway, I don't have any experience with them. But if they're Atturos, they're probably pretty good. Again, I'm concerned about the specs. And again, guys, fact check me on that, because I did check into those tires. They were significantly shorter than Mickey Thompson ET Street SS's or the Nitto 555 R2. So check into that. Let me know what you find out. Sarah's asking, I think the OG Ghost will go for $7 bills. Yes, somebody will pay big money for that. Sarah's saying 3.0s at 22 pounds. I believe that's where it is. Yes. Oh, Modox saying Kenny Bell recommended 93 octane and no more than 6 pounds. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. In fact, I'll take that a step farther. If you're in an area where you can only get your hands on 91 octane, don't do it. If you want to go supercharged and you can only get your hands on 91 octane, go with the centrifugal supercharger, one that's maybe going to be a little bit easier in terms of cylinder loading and just general cylinder pressure in general from low RPM. That's where you get a lot of spark knock. That's where you get the detonation. It's LSKR, low speed spark knock. It is the killer. Like, guys think that it's high speed spark knock that blows up engines. It can and it does, but where you really see it badly is low speed, and that's why I've been such a just a nanny when it comes to fuel quality and what fuel quality means. That's another thing. The question earlier: would I consider doing something else, putting other parts or whatnot on my car? Oh, and this actually, okay. So I'm kind of going back to that to just kind of bring it to a point. So if you're gonna keep your car on 93 octane, there's only so much cylinder pressure that 93 octane, 91 octane premium fuel. There's only so much cylinder pressure that can manage with port injection, with the intake temperatures that you're going to see. In other words, the intake air temps coming out of your compressors. There's only so much that can be managed with that. So if it's a direct injected engine, it's one thing. It's a higher number, and all this stuff starts to come to play. But with our cars being port injected, not direct injected, but being port injected, there's only so much power that you can really run in the thing and still really be cool with 93 octane. And, I set the record on 93. I've run so many hits on 93 in low density altitudes or in great weather conditions, and with so much data that I know that what I have is cool with 93 octane. It's just not much more than where I'm sitting at sea level that gasoline from the pump can realistically manage. And so that's why for me, it's to do it right, which is the only way to do it. To do it right and to really do it right is going to require E85. And I know that that's not the thing that a lot of guys want to hear. But when you're talking about a Hellcat, like I say, there's only so much you can manage with it. And that's any of the Hellcat variants, by the way. It doesn't matter if that's a Red Eye or Hellcat, Super Stock, etc. There's only so much that gasoline can manage before you've just bumped into the actual knock threshold of the fuel that you're working with. And all of that is going to be altitude dependent, density, altitude, actual air quality, and everything. Oh, there's so much that goes into that. So I understand that I'm really painting with an incredibly broad brush here. But again, I have to work in worst case scenarios because that's what I have to deal with at sea level. And for me to put any more into that car, it really probably should move over to 85. Look, okay, and here's the other thing. I'm already maxing out my injectors. I'm maxing out my stock injectors with stock boost on 93 octane. All right. So that'll give you an idea for the kind of air that we can get sometimes down here. It's crazy. Okay. You'll have, and I say maxing out, the data will show injector duty cycle 98, 99%, 100%. And we're not talking about a scenario where, it's, like a fuel pump related issue. This is just the fact that there's a lot of air going in that thing and you got to fuel it. So, there are reasons why, again, for me personally, it just doesn't make sense to go crazy with a different fuel, with more boost and everything else, just because I'm just that happy with the car. But I like the convenience of 93 octane and being able to play is, the whole purpose of that car anyway. Let's see. X is asking if dealerships are charging above MSRP, won't that basically override Kaniskas plan to build MSRP cars first? I don't even know what that means. when Kaniskus was talking about the cars that are selling at MSRP, we're building those first. What the hell does that mean? How you gonna know? Like if I go to a dealership and I cut the dealership a check outside of what I'm trying to buy the car for, how's he gonna know? How would anybody know? I don't get that. It's a weird. See what I mean? Like there's weird stuff. Like you'll hear weird things that just don't make any sense. That's a weird things that doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't. I don't like. So I'm right there with you. How would they know? I have no idea, man. But yeah, you would think that it would go against what the guy was saying. Oh, hang on a second. Moto's saying boost on Scat Pack top end. Oh, if you're asking about how much boost, I think the question is how much boost can you run on a Scat Pack? Like what's the top range? If that's the question you're asking, it depends on the supercharger type that you're working with. If you're going turbo, you could probably sneak by with 8 or 9 pounds, maybe. But again, you're going to be up against the thing is that you're going to hit transmission limitations before you hit engine limitations with those cars, especially if you're taking it to the drag strip. But let's say you're keeping it on street tires. You're looking at, I'd say 8 or 9 with a turbo, centrifugal supercharger, 7 to 8. And for a positive displacement, 6 to 7 at the most would be where I would go with that. Car Wash saying, saw some info on the gasoline chargers and Challies aren't going anywhere, but moving to a twin hair dryer Quip 6. Any ideas? It's possible. What I was hoping is that they would actually change platforms for that engine, which would, to me, be a whole lot cooler of a way of going about doing things. But we'll see, man. And that's the other thing is that we're not getting any type of feedback from Dodge as far as the real direction that Dodge is going to be going in. I mean, you don't have to have a Hellcat, right? But you got to have something. Yeah, you can't not have a gasoline powered performance option for folks. And it's not for, look, I am all about whatever goes fast, goes fast. I don't care if it's powered by diesel fuel. I don't care if it's powered by gasoline, electricity, good vibes. I don't care. I'm all about the fast, but I understand that there are limitations and there are hangups to every type of power plant. There is no free lunch in this, and that's, we all know that. It's just, it's a propaganda machine that just runs amok when you start saying that one fuel is better than another, or one way to power a vehicle is better than another. They all have significant drawbacks. I'll put it to you that way. But even with that being said, if they decide that they want to go with the Hurricane 6, I'm a big fan of it. In fact, if they do it the right way, it would be awesome because you could have a hybrid variant. HP makes a hybrid variant of the transmission already. So it could be 400 horse Hurricane, 500 horse Hurricane, and then insert whatever hybrid boost you want to run with that as well. You want to talk about crazy. I mean, that is a recipe, guys, right there for a mid 10-second car, provided that you're putting it in a car that can compete against the Mustang, the Supra, the Z car, the Z4 for that matter. You've got to put it in a car that competes at that level. And now all of a sudden you've got a real argument on your hands. Like, look, you've already got competitors in the marketplace. How cool would it be to mix it up again and go Dodge, call it the Dodge Stealth, right? The product is already there. It's ready to go. You can make it an all-wheel drive. You can make it just rear-wheel drive. You could do anything you want with this, and it would be awesome. And this is why I was saying, what would have just been sick is if they would have done some kind of reveal, da-da-da-da, car goes down the track, wheelie wheelie, everybody goes, yay. And then lights go dim, and in the background, it just says on a screen, VR4. Lights go back up like it never even happened. Okay, so back to right? Or if it would have gone, lights go dead, and it's the old eagle emblem. Remember the eagle talon? The old eagle emblem just goes into existence and then goes out. All right, back to it. Like, oh, yeah, that'd be crazy. DSM type cars back in the mix. Back when it was 4-cylinder twin cam turbo versus V8. A lot of people don't realize that you had turbo 6s with the 300Z. You had, and the VR4 Stealth. You had the 4-cylinder twin cam stuff that was going out and just ripping the heads off of V8s. There was a lot of cars that were running around back then that folks seem to have forgotten about, that were really kind of fast, and they were fast enough to where they would give any V8 they ran across production here, but they would give pretty much any production V8 they ran across all it could handle and then some. So, it's pretty cool to see the maybe come from that. And if that new Demon 170 can help to usher in and maybe set the table a little bit for new technology that could come with that new Hurricane hybrid, all-wheel drive, Eagle Talon, Starion, which is the one I've been, Starion. It's almost like I got a nervous tick there, but the flex fuel, E85. Could you imagine? Look, here's the thing. I don't know how much more you can get out of the Hurricane on gasoline because it's already at an obnoxious pounds of boost per horsepower number. Like, it's just too high already. Like, even EcoBoost guys see those kind of pounds per horsepower and they go, ooh, that's spooky. But walk with me on this, fellas. What if they use that same flex fuel technology, Echo Ocho Cinco, for the Hurricane? Now it's a 600 horsepower 3-liter, not a 500. And you could have a hybrid combination that would make it a 750 with 750 pound-feet of torque in a car that weighs as much as a Mustang, for example. Now it starts to make sense. Now we're talking about a dirty girl. We're talking a dirty girl. And if they make that work, then that's going to be something that's going to be worth sticking around and looking for sure. And it's there. They've got the technology, guys. It's all there, ready to go, wrapped up in a bow. So, Callus is asking, does the hybrid root supercharger compress air or just force air? So a hybrid supercharger, a hybrid roots supercharger, I'm guessing what we're talking about would be a twin screw, right? So in that case, a twin screw does compress air within the screws themselves, which helps to make them more efficient. Now, there are other types of positive displacement superchargers that are out there. If you guys get bored, I tell you what, the sure cure for insomnia is when you start looking up this older technology. Look up the Vane type supercharger. Look up Vane type supercharger small block Chevy. It is, in essence, okay, we talk about superchargers as compressors. A Roots supercharger is basically your oil pump. Instead of moving oil, though, it's moving air. That's a Roots supercharger, literally. A twin screw is kind of a hybrid between. Anyway, you're literally meshing two screw portions together, one male, one female side. Anyway, a vane type supercharger is something completely different. It's real complicated, super expensive, but it's basically like bolting the compressor side of a jet engine onto the top of your motor, or on top of your engine, and spinning it with the engine the same way you do with a root supercharger, albeit at a significantly higher RPM. And it's just a compressor. So a vane type compressor is what you find in a jet engine. And so anyway, just look it up. It's a trip. There was at one point there was some, I mean, pretty good reasoning behind it to take the place of Roots style superchargers in like diesel applications. But turbos are just more efficient, and there's no downside to a turbo when you hit altitude. So that's why they obviously superseded it. It never really took off. But anyway, check it out. It's definitely something interesting. Oh, Sovereign saying Racer X tried to track some 170s down. I think he was way over sticker for sure. Oh, yeah, yeah. Red Dog's in. Thank you much again, brother. Saying he got the stainless works. Stainless works are good. That's what Quick Brick had on his, was stainless works. That car made really good power. Someone saying, hit that like button. Saying, have you ever seen Z's Hellcat? Many, 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 many times. Yes. Ryan's checking out. We'll see you later, brother. Cap Zen saying, looks like Aturo finally dropped their AZ850DRs in the 315/40 18 size. Might look into them. Very nice. Oh, Ryan saying, hit the like button. Yes. Cap saying, based on some inside info, got a buddy that works for the company. Sent me a list. There will be a Charger and Challenger on a platform called STLA Large, and he did tell me both will have the i6. So STLA Large is a hybrid platform from Stellantis. So you have STLA Small, STLA Medium, STLA Large, and STLA Truck. And the way it breaks down is STLA Small is, think of it like a city car, like something you would see just kind of kicking around like a, what is that? Like the little Scion looking sized car. STLA Medium would be, and I'm surprised they don't call it this. Maybe it is, but it would more or less be something that looked like the Hornet. That's STLA Medium. And I want to say that the small is good to about 250 or 300 horsepower. The medium is good to like 450-ish horsepower. STLA Large, my understanding is that platform is supposed to be hybrid. Actually, they're all supposed to be hybrid. But STLA Large would be all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive with provisions for hybrid and for electric only. So the Banshee would be on the STLA Large. The Challenger, the new Challenger, could be on STLA Large and have a hybrid drivetrain or a gasoline drivetrain. The only downside to that is it's more or less a modular platform, and from an engineering standpoint, modular style platforms are jacks of all trades, but they are a master of none, especially when you start to look at some of the compromises that you make. So a lot of times they can be a heavier platform. Just the underpinnings can be rather heavy. But they have to be, especially when you consider that in some cases the battery is a stressed member, and so there's all kinds of stuff to go into it. But yes, STLA Large is a platform that I was hoping we would hear more about at this stage of the game, but we're not. And then you have STLA Truck, which had the largest battery capacity of any of the cars, if you're just talking about a pure EV standpoint. But we'll see. But thank you for that. Sovereign saying, I think we'll see that new Hurricane i6 and Challenger platforms. We will, and they won't be Mercedes derived. I can tell you that. And yeah, there's a lot of potential there. So hopefully we can make it work. X is asking the question that I cannot answer. Did the 2018 Demon ever hit a 965 run, 100% bone stock? I will be corrected on this, but I'm going to say no. Somebody had told me, though, that somebody had run the number. It was a one-off deal that I don't know was ever repeated. I can tell you, though, that there were a handful, more than a handful, of demons in negative, legit, by the way, low humidity, negative 1100 DAs that had run 970s. None of them, not one of them, ran 960s. When Ray ran the 978, when I prepped that car and I set that car up, it was set up as delivered with no passenger seat, just like a one-seat car. And when it went 78, nobody believed it. Nobody believed at the time, because this was the first Legion of Demons. Nobody believed at the time that the car would be able to run that number in that configuration, because nobody had run quicker than a not, might be wrong about this, but at that time, nobody had run any quicker than a 982 or maybe a 985. It was a 980 something, with most guys running 990s with their cars in that configuration. So, I don't know if there ever was, I'll put it to you like this. If there ever was a demon that ran a 65, a 965 in 100% as delivered form, like in one seat as delivered form, it was done a handful of times with probably a digit left over, until you start getting the guys to where they would try to perform every little trick in the book that they could to get the car to run a number, but it was never, that I can recall, run on NT05s. And keep in mind, with some transmission tuning and a little bit of some other engine tuning and kind of crappy air, we were the first to run a 9-second pass in one of the Demons at Houston Raceway Park. In fact, I was driving that Demon when it ran that number. And it was a data log number. And I remember this like it was yesterday. I had to pee like it was no tomorrow. And I was in a pissed off mood because my computer kept crashing. And anyway, but yeah, we were the first to run a 9 with any Demon at Houston Raceway Park. And so, yeah, that was pretty cool. But, and that was with NT05s, but that car was heavy when we ran those numbers. But again, that was not a bone stock car either. Someone saying Dodge Spirit RT with an i4 Hurricane for sure. Someone saying Dirty Girl trademark, the Dodge Dirty Girl. Yes. Sovereign's asking, what's the difference between a turbo versus a turbo-looking Procharger? A Procharger is nothing more than a centrifugal supercharger, which is to say that it is the compressor side. It's a centrifugal compressor. So the idea with that is it is literally drawing in air and whipping it around the housing of that snail-looking thing. That is how the thing compresses the air. It draws in the air and it literally whips it to the case, in essence, and it is moving the air that way. And you can see this in water pumps. If you ever see a water pump, an industrial water pump is a centrifugal pump. It's exactly the same thing. So the difference is that a centrifugal supercharger, by the way we would talk about it, is driven by the engine via a crank pulley drive of some kind. But it's driven by the engine crankshaft, not by the engine exhaust. Turbochargers or turbo supercharging, because it's all supercharging because it's above atmosphere air. So super above charge, air charge. That is driven by exhaust pulses. And so it's just a means of driving that compressor differently. The compressors could be identical. It's just the way that they are being driven is the difference. Oh, Cap saying apparently Nitto is also making the G2 in the 315 4018 Demon size again. I tell you what, I like from a performance standpoint, the G2 is actually not a bad tire. Oh, Moto X accidentally hit return while finishing the Kenny Bell post. Oh, not a big deal. I do that all the time. Sar said, I like an STLA large, but all i6, no hybrid. It could very well be a thing. Absolutely. It's talking about the lead acid battery in the car. Yep. Sovereign's asking, did Herman ever hit 965? Not stock, no. Yeah, saying he might have hit a 980. I think he went 985 with his. I think in mostly stock form. You can get into wheels and tires and start splitting hairs with that, but yeah, 980, maybe 970s with, real lightweight wheels and all that. But again, you start talking about that, you get a lot of Demon owners get really flustered over that kind of stuff. HU's asking, Dodge is talking about a 400 horsepower i6 and a 500 horsepower i6. Is it because the latter is a hybrid? No, it's a higher boost version of the 400, and it's got lower compression ratio. Makes sense because you'd only need one engine. No, it's actually two different engines, same block, rods and crank. But the 500 horse has lower compression ratio, but is running more boost. It's 26 pounds versus 22 pounds. I don't know about the camshaft profiles. I'm assuming they would probably be the same. And of course, they're employing every trick in the book to make that work too. Craig's asking, hey, have you ever driven a Scat Pack 1320? How does it compare to a regular Scat Pack? Yes, I have. And I have some of my absolute fondest memories with a good, dearly departed buddy of mine in his 1320. So just from a normal, just kicking around driving experience, it's got a little bit softer suspension. But other than that, you wouldn't really notice a huge difference between a 1320 and a Scat Pack. But yeah, I love me some Scat Pack. A lot. Sovereign said a Procharger would not have as bad a parasitic versus a supercharger, right? Well, they're all superchargers. So I think what you're asking is, would a centrifugal supercharger, which the trademark name or the the trade name for that particular supercharger would be Procharger, but Vortec, Paxton would be the same thing. Would that type of supercharger have a lower parasitic loss than a positive displacement supercharger like a Roots or a twin screw? And the answer to that is yes, it has a lower parasitic loss. Callis is asking, did I ever break dance as a kid? Not very successfully, no. Although I had a pretty strong worm and my backspin was basically on point. Everything else, I looked like I was getting electrocuted. Roy's saying, what kind of car is this Chevrolet going to use for NASCAR after the Camaro drops off? Glad Mustang is still in. I have no idea. I couldn't answer that question, but it's a good question nonetheless. Red Dog's asking, off topic, what was the favorite Canyon carver I ever drove? My absolute all-time favorite carver was the 350Z that I had when I lived in Northern California. I love that car because I could flat foot it and it handled fantastically. And there are times where I really do kind of miss having a car like that in the stable. Craig's asking, thank you. Does the 1320 shift harder or maybe feel faster? Not really. Like I say, you really probably wouldn't notice a big difference driving the two. Sovereign, yeah, just say, oh yeah, that's it. Callis asking, does a rear strut tower brace inhibit, help, or not make any difference at the drag strip? It hurts you because it's just extra weight. Don't need it. Craig saying, thank you, brother. Absolutely. Yeah, like I say, I've got such a soft spot in my heart for the 1320, man. It's really cool memory with my buddy. And so the story goes like this with the 1320. Ray, who is who we set his car. I mean, I set it up for him, but the Demon record, not once, but twice. But he had picked up a 1320 and we were going to go meet up at the drag strip. And the problem was that there was a music festival and neither one of us really even picked up on the fact that was going on. So we go, well, you just got this 1320. What can we do with the 1320, right? So we were at an Exxon station. And I left Revlon there. We hopped into the 1320 and just took off. And there was a secluded area back over here where we basically had the equivalent of like our own drag strip just there for us. So Ray was driving. He goes, all right, let's see if we can get this thing to run. Let's see what it runs on the street. This is, I think the car had 750 miles on it. Still had the Nexons all the way around at street pressure, 32 PSI. So Ray's driving and he makes a hit and we're going off of the little time slip that's in the dash, right? Ray runs at 12:30 and it's like kind of crappy conditions anyway. I said, all right, cool. He goes, your turn. Really? Okay, cool. So we get to this one spot. He gets out. We do the Chinese fire drill thing. I'm driving now. So we haul ass back, turn around. Because the thing was, we wanted to both start from the same place. Like if we're going to do this, we're going to treat it just like the track. Bet. So I make a hit. I run a 12:20. Okay. Well, now the competition's on. So all night long, we were making laps in this thing. Both of us now running 1220s in this car on the street at street pressure with myself and my buddy in the car with a low mileage car in crap weather. It's just really funny. Anyway, the very last hit, we're like, dude, we're about to get there. I mean, we were there for 2 hours. I mean, we're making hits for about 2 hours. So last hit, Ray runs Ray ran a 12:18 or something like whatever it was. Anyway, he ran a 12:1, beat me, and that was it. So anyway, we had a lot of fun with it. John's asking, can you drive a Challenger drag pack on the street if you put normal tires and add mirrors to it? No, you can't, because you can't insure it and it has no VIN. Sorry saying it, John. That would be a big no. Yeah. Sorry saying music, you say the 1320 makes its own. Yeah, that is true. Car was really, really fun, man. Good running version too. But guys, with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Look, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about that 170, mainly because, well, by the time those things actually really start finding us out in the wild, I don't know that the hype is still going to be strong. There are guys that will still absolutely gravitate to those cars. I can't wait to see what they run. The hype will become, it'll re-blossom at that point in time, which I know is still a ways out. We're still looking at about 6 months from this time to come out, but you know, it'll be a great car. Can't wait to see it. Really hoping for waterfalling. More important to that, though, really looking to see what comes after that. 170, is it going to be the i6 cars, i6 hybrid? Can I see a VR4 in the future? Maybe a Talon or a Starion, something cool. Anyway, but just curious as far as how that technology would waterfall. But with that, guys, I do have to wrap it up. Listen, get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. And with that, that's a wrap. Y'all have a great one. Adios.